This is the Baltimore Underground Radio Podcast. Showcasing local musicians, playing songs, and getting the interview. We'll also bend your ear about gear. Baltimore, we are sick with talent. Put your ears on. It's time to listen. In today's episode, Bronson Hoover interviews jazz pianist Marc Cary and artist manager Tinku Bhattacharyya. Take it away, Bronson. Rated RRR for language. Raucous, raunchy, and real.
In 2015, I created a jazz concert series in a quaint museum about 2 miles as the crow flies from my home. I wanted to kick off the series with a bang. I needed an artist that had both the gravitas and fan base of an elder statesman, but who also pushed the boundaries in the genre. Someone on the cutting edge with a healthy respect for the past. Marc Cary was the first artist to cross my mind. So in January of that year, Marc Cary took the train down from New York to kick off my nascent concert series I called Jazz in the Round. The show sold out and was a springboard for 2 years of intimate musical experiences with some of the world's top jazz pianists, all because Marc was willing to take a chance on me and add his cachet to my series. I'll forever be in his debt. Marc Cary cut his teeth playing go-go as a teenager in Washington, D.C. At 15, he was a rising star in the city's world-famous Duke Ellington School of the Arts. At the age of 21, he got the call to hit the road with the legendary Betty Carter. He's worked with absolutely everyone: Abbey Lincoln, Wynton Marsalis, Roy Hargrove, Cindy Blackman, Stefan Harris. The list is too long to name. During our mad dash to the train station after his performance for Jazz in the Round, I asked him something about Horace Silver's playing, and he casually mentioned that Horace used to come watch him play. Used to sit right up front, he told me. Then I mentioned an evening I sat at a bar with my hero Jimmy Smith, and he told me a story about having breakfast with the godfather of jazz organ the morning after a show at the Montreux Jazz Fest. Marc has seen it all. But today's interview is a 2-for-1 deal. In 2016, Marc married a brilliant Scottish woman named Tinku Bhattacharyya. Tinku runs an artist and rights management company called Intrinsic Artists. She cut her teeth DJing and managing clubs in Glasgow, Scotland, and London, England. Tinku got her PhD in something sciencey, but it was dancing to artists like Gary Bartz in clubs in Glasgow that pointed her down the music path. Today, she manages Gary Bartz's career. She's worked with artists like Shuggy Otis, Incognito, Roy Ayers, and the Grammy-nominated duo King. She's very passionate and knowledgeable about rights management. It's become her life's work. Every artist needs to hear what she has to say about metadata, streaming, and mechanical rights. In an industry that's notorious for squeezing every last drop out of an artist's potential, Tinku is an advocate working to reverse the paradigm. As a piano player and jazz lover, I could talk to Marc Cary for days. But as someone who prefers to have a roof over my head and a nice bottle of scotch in my cabinet, I need to absorb all that Tinku has to offer. I hope you all get as much out of the next 40 minutes as I did. Well, so Marc, you were born in New York, but you spent a lot of time in the city that I've been calling home for years, which is D.C.
Oh, yeah.
When did you move to D.C. and when did you move out of D.C.?
Well, at this point, I've spent more time in New York than D.C. I've been in New York almost 30 years. So. I was in D.C. from the age of 7 to 21, so 14 years there, you know. And then,
but that had that influenced your musical tastes, though,
everything.
Did it not?
It gave me the foundation I needed to be able to deal with New York again and deal with the world, really. I mean, you know, you get a quality of life here that And I was exposed to a lot of things and I was interested in a lot of things that I had access to. So, you know.
So when you started out on the music scene in DC, was go-go what got you into the scene? Was that your first love in music, or?
Oh yeah, my first organized sound kind of experience was in a go-go band. Or what was to become a go-go band. We had buckets and cans and a drum set, a trumpet. I mean, we kind of pulled it together after a while. I was in the neighborhood, but the sound of go-go was the thing that made me want to be a part of organized music. The piano and music in general was always a part of my environment, but where I felt I could be a part of it was through go-go, and like it was a slow progression to get to the piano, but I got there after about 5 years of playing music, So drums, cello, trumpet, and then piano.
When you were doing go-go, were you the keyboard player, or were you?
I did everything
drums?
in the go-go band. I played drums, trumpet, and piano. That's how I got to the piano, was through the go-go bands. Like, I found I organized the band. We became High Integrity Band and Show at our peak. And but I always wanted the best band. So I was playing drums when the band started, and I heard a better drummer. So I was like, well, why don't you come play drums in the band, and I'll play trumpet, And I could hit the high notes on the trumpet. I had a bit of, go-go style trumpet playing, which is make the ones and the peaks,
Right.
Wow.
Right.
So I got that, and I started to get a little bit of progression on that, but that I was like, I just can't compete with a lip, So the piano was the next stride. Then I got fired from my band because I started getting good, and they were like, well, man, what are you doing? You're showing off. So I started soloing. They were like, nah, we don't, that's too much.
Yeah. No 3-6-2-5. You got to stay just on a one. Yeah.
And I was like, man, this is where it should go. And they were like, nah, man, we just want that pocket. So I literally left my own band to go play jazz.
How old were you when that happened?
Well, kind of that was a progression. I mean, I guess we split for other reasons too. But I ended up, I wanted to pursue jazz. That was around age 14.
And then you got into Duke Ellington School of Music, right?
Yes.
Isn't that where you went to school?
Yeah, I got into Duke at the age 16. Yeah.
How did you go from go-go to Duke Ellington to playing with Betty Carter?
Well, Duke Ellington exposed me to everything. Getting into Duke Ellington was a matter of making, like, the testing, and I got my skills together to be able to make the entrance exam, with no problem. So getting in was the big deal, like know your scales, know your fundamental things, and I did. And so once I got in, I was exposed to the world of music, a lot because the affiliation with Blues Alley brought a lot of artists to the school. So that was just beyond my wildest, dream, to be able to meet all the people that I was learning about. To meet people connected to the ones at least that I was learning about, historically. And the ones that were actually out doing it, like Wynton. Wynton was a big inspiration to me when I was in high school. Him, McCoy Tyner, and Dizzy, Walter Davis Jr., and all these cats came through the school. And I would go to Blues Alley. And we'd get to see them. We'd had tickets to go sit and watch them. Tony Williams came through. I was playing drums in Duke Ellington and piano. And so I got to, do workshops with Tony Williams and learn what he was actually doing, and learn from, people like McCoy and Marcus Roberts and Kenny Kirkland. All those cats came through the school. So I learned piano, fundamental piano stuff from them,
In high school. That's amazing.
In high school, yeah. So by the time I got to college, UDC, I got there through a scholarship from the DC piano competition. And Calvin Jones was one of the judges, and he heard me. He was like, well, shoot, man, I need you in the big band. And so that was like the further progression and the deepening into the music, And from there, I joined the Frontline Jazz Ensemble, which was Frankie Addison's group, we worked 5 nights a week. I formed a lot of relationships through that, which propelled me to move to New York halfway through my time at UDC. Because I was like, man, I don't think this is what I want. I need to get in it, you know.
So you didn't finish at UDC?
No, Calvin Jones told me, he took me to the window of the band room. He said, look in that window. And he said, some of these cats have been in my band for 6, 7, 8 years. He's like, you can become a professional student. You're already playing. You know, I could teach you more of what you know, and you can have more experience with me, or you can go to New York and get it. And if your pockets start meeting in the back, then come on back, and you get your scholarship back. And I never had to come back.
That's great.
Yeah, that's what he told me.
So when did you hook up with Betty? Was Betty Carter your first big?
Well, fortunately, I got to meet other cats before I got to Betty. I don't think I would have been ready for Betty. But Arthur Taylor, I was playing with him before I got into Betty's band.
Okay.
And I was playing with Beaver Harris. I was playing with Clifford Jordan's big band. And a couple other bands around the city. Mickey Bass had a big band. And I was in the fabric of like learning, you know. And then Betty's thing, actually I was on my way back to DC in a U-Haul. I was on my way back, and I got the beep from Taurus Mateen on my beeper, and it was a 911 beep, and I stopped and called him, and he said, Betty wants you for an audition. So I made it. I went home and dropped a load at DC. There's still stuff there I need to get now, but that was 30 years ago. I dropped a load and went back to New York and did the audition, and then ended up going on 6 weeks of one-nighters after that, and then the story just kept going from there.
I saw her. My parents took me to see her at Fort DuPont when I was a kid.
Oh wow, yeah.
I don't know. Do you remember the concert series?
I went to Fort DuPont to see her. Yeah.
Yeah, we probably at the same show.
Yeah.
The thing I remember about that, besides her, I was probably early teens or something like that when she came through.
Right.
But things I remember the show being amazing. But I also remember they were sponsored by Cools. And everybody was smoking menthols around.
I remember that. Yep. And
all I remember is cigarette smoking jazz. That's all I remember.
That might have been the same year they had Horace Silver there, because I remember that was a banging lineup that year. It was like Horace, Betty Carter, and Horace had Andy Bay with him. It was just, DC exposed me to a lot of great music, and all the artists came here, you know. And the Folklife Festival, that's the thing that really got me into African music and wanting to explore it, because I was amazed by folklife music.
Well, the first time I ever heard about you, a buddy of mine gave me your album, Listen.
Wow.
And I loved it. And I remember like totally getting into it. But I remember specifically one track on there that I wanted to ask you about. And that's the song New Blues.
Oh, yeah, man.
That song, man, the first time I heard that, it hit me. And it hit me because... So, like, I love reggae because reggae has got an up and a down at the same time, right?
Yeah.
And New Blues is the same thing for me because the drums come in swinging a good, solid mid-tempo, and all of a sudden, the melody comes in like halftime, so far behind the beat, I thought for a while it was a different time signature.
Yep.
It's so far behind the beat.
Yep, but it's late. It's like all the yellow lights. That song is about the yellow lights, you know?
Yeah, that's a nice way to put that.
Yeah, man.
When you write a song like that, when the rhythm and the melody are so different in the feel like that, how do you come at that first? Like, do you hear the beat and then you hear the melody, or?
Well, the bass set everything up. Boom, ging, ging, gong, gong, ging, ging, gong, gong, ging, ging, gong, ging, ging, gong. So that everything is based off of that. Okay. It sounds like it's behind, but I'm behind of the bass.
Yeah.
You know, so I'm letting the bass swing. And so the drums is swing, that ding, ding, ding. You know, that swing on top of that is two different kind of pulls. the melody is bo gang, bo gum, bo go big da boo, but it's really kind of behind the beat.
Brubeck did that a lot too. He would always be like a 3/4 feel on top of a 4/4, and you'd like
That's
trying to figure out where did that come from. Yeah, so that's why new blues, man.
It's very African. That's where that comes from. Yeah,
I love it. And then another song I wanted to ask you about is on Antidote, and that's Chappaquiddick Woman.
Yeah, that's for my mother. She was the tribal chief of the Wampanoag Indian Nation. We're Wampanoag, and Chappaquiddick Wampanoag, and she was the squaw for 5 years, and that was the period that I wrote that song. Now she's the spiritual advisor for our tribe.
I didn't know that connection. That explains why I always sense a bit of spirituality in your music. It comes from your mom, I guess. A little bit of that.
Oh yeah, but and also it's the tones I choose. You know, it's like you can embed the feeling. Of course, the feeling comes from the person performing it. You know, you have to bring it to life, and I'm really just about at the core, you know, becoming one with the experience, which is the only way you can create the synergy with people. You know, the exhibition of it is the least of my thoughts. Is really what comes through. You know, like what's happening right now. We got this wave bringing us video and voice, and that's the same thing that sound does. It brings whatever thoughts come through, and most of the time when I engage in music, it's such a spiritual thing in itself. It evokes that from me, you know, and I'm very attached to it. So,
well, and Chappaquiddick Woman has like a pattern that helps. It's like mesmerizing. It's meditative, you know. Yes, yeah. And you know, the other cool thing about it's amazing to me that you remember all these songs, because you have so many songs in your catalog. But that lick you just played has like a the good, the bad, and the ugly vibe to it too. You know what I mean?
Exactly what it is.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
You know, I'm a Clint Eastwood fanatic, man.
Really?
Sergio, yeah. Ennio, yeah. That is well, for a few dollars more, that soundtrack.
Yeah, that part is the same deal, and that's what that made that movie. He just had to play that one part through the whole entire movie. That's all it was.
At different tempos, you know.
Yeah. The other song I wanted to ask you about was from Roads Ahead, Volume 2, song You Can't Stop Us Now.
Yes.
And the thing that caught my ear about that one was the bass player. I don't know who the bass player is on that.
Taurus Mateen, man.
Oh man, he he does these voice leading things on that track that are so cool. Like I love it when the bass is so integrated with the melody and everything else. And
Yep.
How did that whole album come about? Like, I know that the Rhodes is an important part of your sound. Why the Rhodes? You know, why the couple albums devoted to the Rhodes? Like, what's that love affair about?
You know, the first album was a tribute to Harold, the creator of the Rhodes, and the fact that he created such a beautiful instrument from such a destructive device. You know, that the Fender Rhodes is built from warplane parts.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. So I just like the idea of the alchemy of changing something negative into something positive. You know, creating music from nothing. You know, that whole thing. And then the thing about the Rhodes is, it has the bell tones, which really are very it's kind of like the upper room vibe, you know. So I'm very attracted to that belt. I don't like vibes. I wouldn't become a vibe player. I like vibes, but the closest I can get to it is to play the Rhodes, you know. I mean, I studied vibes for a minute, but I'm just not. You got cats like Stefan and I'm out there doing that. And
now that you're in Baltimore, you got your Warren Wolf.
Oh, Wolfie. My goodness.
Dude,
Wolfie.
That guy, man, he makes me mad because he plays every instrument.
I know. He drums, keys, yeah.
And he's killer at everything.
Yeah, he's wonderful, man. He's got a great father, too. He's a great teacher, you know. So.
How do you feel about the jazz scene? I mean, forget COVID. If we could take the pandemic out of this, is the jazz scene in a good place?
You know, it's where the people are. I put it like this. The music is always incredible. The scene has always been a problem for creators of the music. It's always been an issue. It goes through the different changes that it goes through, you know. So the scene could mean a few things. I don't really know where the scene. Did you know where the scene is? I've never seen the scene. I know they talk about it a lot. There's sets. You got jazz sets, but the scene normally happens around venues or around a happening, you know. I think there's a lot of great jazz musicians on deck, ready to be, you know, engaged, you know, and to, you know, explore the music and develop it, you know, but there's not many opportunities for people who haven't established themselves prior to this moment unless you create them. And they won't be the same sets that we're accustomed to, you know. So I think it's in a flux, truthfully speaking. It's always been that way since I've been in jazz.
Yeah.
There's never been solid ground. It's like I'm always reaching for something that's just, oh man, you should have been here a year ago, you know.
Right. Yeah.
But then I look back at my time and I'm like, man, it was incredible what I did get to. So I really don't want to judge it beyond saying that the opportunities that, you know, we have to build new opportunities, man. It's up to us to create the scene. And so, you know, if we're leaving it up to someone else, I don't think they're thinking about everybody, you know. That's the case.
What about the business bonded you guys? What was the overall opinion that bonded you guys?
I don't know, really. I think we were talking, you'd connected with Amp Fiddler, who I was working with at the time. You'd played on a recording for him via Mike Mumford or something like that.
No, I did. I produced Mike Mumford's record, and then Amp was gonna do some kind of something with the record, and then we talked. Come to find out, he knew you, and that sparked, you know, like a common connection besides David and him. But
yeah. I mean, so I think it was just in pursuit of like talking about, you know, what I was doing with Amp and stuff, and what Mark was doing. We saw a lot of common ground.
Well, she understood things that no one I had met prior to that understood about the business.
Yeah,
I'm talking about like you know, like if you ask me about a chord, I could give you various description of it, or I could really get really deep. She could go as deep as you wanted to go with an issue. She understood the protocols, the etiquette, and understood the channels to get paid. That were, you know, kind of like always just kind of over there, or you couldn't get to it. And she was willing to battle for me, you know, with the situation I was dealing with Motema. You know, I'd had 2 records in the can, and when she heard that, she was like, "What? 3? 3 records in the can, yeah." You know, and
they multiplied.
Yeah, and so we started to talk about a plan, and we started it, and you know, one thing led to the next. But she really understood how to go about things.
And the thing for me with him as an artist was, apart from his talent, a sort of desire to actually stand up for his own value, which might sound like a weird thing to say, but in our industry, you have to basically dictate your value. What was it? Was it Betty used to say? You get what you negotiate.
Yeah, no, Abby used to say you get what you negotiate for. Yeah. You
know, but you know, jazz is interesting. It's funny to even call it a scene from my point of view, because what the jazz scene for me was growing up in Scotland, dancing to Gary Bart's on a dance floor. It wasn't sitting in jazz, you know, supper club listening to like, you know, it was a completely different experience. You know, so you come to New York and you see, oh wow, like you can see the best musicians in the world in New York. Like they all come to gravitate to play with each other and this and that. But when you actually start scratching the surface of the scene, it's like, well, you know, some of the venues haven't got great sound, or some of the venues just cater to tourists, so they're looking for marquee artists. Where are these points of development? And, you know, I've been in America 8 years now, and I think I haven't yet seen a place where jazz is presented on a dance floor. Maybe at a performing arts centre, or maybe, you know, in a supper club or somewhere like that, or as brunch music. But show me where people go to dance to jazz, you know? You know, in the mid-90s, I was working as a DJ in nightclubs in Scotland, and we like to have live music with our nightclubs, so we would hire bands, whether they were local bands or, you know, if we got enough money in the kitty, we'd go hire someone like Jimmy Smith or, you know, Reuben Wilson or Charles Erland, or, you know, we would work with other clubs in the country to try and bring these artists over. So, you know, when I was 22, 23, I would be working in a club where I would have maybe 800 kids on a Friday or a Saturday night, not just dancing to the music the DJs were playing, but dancing to, you know, Gil Scott-Heron playing live, or Charles Erland playing live, or that was our context. You know, you get to know the guys when you bring them over at that time, so they just, you know, loved our scene. They were like, well, we come over here and we get paid. Right. We go to New York and we're playing for $50 in a club. So that culturally hasn't changed much in 20, 30 years. Maybe $50 is $100 now. But
yeah, but it's been $100 since the 70s.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so, well, for me, with coming over here, it was like, wow, this is like literally the home of like this amazing art form, but you don't seem to love it as much as we do. Like,
well, they don't love the makers, and they
there you go.
You know, although the people that love the music, the musicians included.
Yeah.
But there's an ability over here to separate this from that and extract this from that. So a lot of people like the extraction of it.
Yeah. You know, we still have this bit of this us and them mentality when it comes to whether it's venues or record labels, or and it comes from a good place, but
So that's a good segue, because when we talked last week on the phone, I don't know if you realize how I have been railing against Spotify on Facebook for like years. Spotify like pisses me off. But you said something on the phone last week about, well, if you're mad at Spotify, you got to be mad at all these record labels. And then the funny thing was, Tinku, we talked on Thursday. 2 days later, I'm sitting around a bonfire with some friends, and one of them said, well, I'll send you a Spotify playlist. And someone else around the bonfire like looked right at me and goes, uh-oh. Don't get Bronson started. Right? Right. And I said to everyone around the fire pit, I was like, let me tell you something. We're about to get an education on how to use Spotify to your benefits. You're going to want to listen to my next podcast.
Yeah.
Because I got Tinku here. So Tinku, please explain to the world, to my musician friends in particular, how do we use the market has changed so much. We used to have radio to play music, and now maybe we have Spotify. How do we do this? How do we use it to our advantage?
Well, you know what? I think if you can get past the point that it's a bit of an acid trip. Like, we actually have way more opportunities now than we did 10 years, 20 years ago, whatever, in terms of access to distributing music and getting it out in the public domain and even being able to do it ourselves. That's all new. But I think you're all depressed. Honestly, I think most musicians are depressed because culturally you're getting told time and time again that something killed the value in your music. Back in the day it was, CDs killed vinyl, and then downloads killed CDs, and Napster killed downloads, and now downloads are dead and it's streaming. And yeah, I would be depressed too if someone was telling me that all of my hard work is not going to end up paying me any money. Culturally, that was even happening with the labels in the past 10 years. Like, an artist tries to talk to a label and say, hey, why am I not making any money off this record? And they turn around and either blame you and then blame streaming. And I get it, because you can't comparing a sale of a CD and a stream is like comparing apples and pears. First, one mythbuster they don't tell you, particularly unless you're doing a major label contract, is that a stream is not a sale. A stream is a license. It's a license between your distributor and the platform and so on. But historically, the tradition of label culture has been to not recognize it as a license, because guess what? When you're on a license, you get 50-50 deals. If it's not deemed a license and it's deemed a sale, now you're back to your 16 to 22% or whatever your royalty is. And you can go to business schools all over the world and they'll basically just tell you that it's a historical thing and you can't change it. But the distraction is we're all looking at the royalty rates. How much do you get paid for a stream? And we're trying to equate that back to how much you get paid for a CD sale or a download. And you cannot equate these things. There's definitely problems with how we're getting paid. Copyright rates need to be bigger, there's no doubt. But the people that are not participating in the conversation are the musicians. They're too busy saying, screw Spotify. But there's industry bodies fighting in Congress every day about this stuff. But what's happened is a lot of musicians, particularly in like jazz, for instance, have decided to boycott Spotify or boycott Apple Music and this and that. And what a lot of them don't really understand is you don't just make money back. That 0.009 cents that they tell you get for a stream isn't the only part of the pie that you get. That's the bit that comes back from selling your music. But you have money that's generated from writing the music, from performing the music. And that stuff is not sent to your label or to your distributor. That goes to Sound Exchange and Harry Fox and Music Reports and all these other companies across the world. And that's why I say that you have to stop sort of hating on Spotify and going, that's the reason I'm not successful. It's part of the picture. But 90% of the time when I talk to an artist about this and we start getting into, well, where's your music registered? Who are you a member of? Most of them don't even know how to collect their mechanical income, which is, 9 cents on the dollar for every track that is pressed or streamed or played. It's, a substantial amount of money. So, I think musicians have been kind of programmed into thinking it's just about sales and that's how your money comes together and that's why there's no value. But it's the wrong way to think about it. If you register your copyright and your metadata in all the right places so you can get as much of the pie back as possible, now you're getting more than the minimum streaming rate. You also brought up radio, which is an interesting thing because, again, jazz radio in America is very different than the rest of the world. It tends to be an older demographic. It tends to be, non-profits or whatever, and they have to be dragged kicking and screaming in the most loving way possible into the modern age, because they still insist on CDs. They still think that musicians put music out in a 12-week cycle, and that's simply not the case. It hasn't been for a long time, But in the end of the day, like, the more places that your music is accessible, number one, it helps you not build an audience, but diversify your audience. If you want to get your music to jazz radio in America right now, you either have to try and do it yourself or hire a radio plugger. Radio plugger is going to cost you anything between $1,500 to $5,000 a month, depending on what project is, how many CDs you're selling out, etc., etc. Now, if you look at the Jazz Week end of year charts that they publish every year, a number one record at Jazz Radio will have approximately 5,000 to 6,000 national radio spins reported. You can do that in 1 hour on Spotify. So I start going, well, if we actually saw that component of Spotify that is more like radio, we have an opportunity here to actually get our music on playlists that are then literally shoved in front of people's faces to hear it. Now I'm making money from trying to promote my music rather than paying to promote it with the hope that those radio spins are going to make a bunch of people run to Spotify tomorrow and stream my music.
So Spotify is really a marketing tool, and we need to think of it as a marketing tool.
I would say that's a big component that we miss. It really is. It's a bit like digital radio in some respects. It just doesn't have all the presenters and stuff like that,
Right.
But it's not. It's also not the answer. It's not the answer compared to CDs or vinyl. I mean, vinyl sales this year on year, are up more than CD sales.
The hipsters love the vinyl.
The hipsters love the vinyl. So it's direct to customer marketing. When I started doing this type of work 20 years ago, you had to sort of back a horse. If iTunes gave you a preview on your album or gave you some feature on their front page, you couldn't go do the same deal with Amazon or anyone else. There was exclusivity. Now nobody really offers that amount of value, so it's allowed things like Bandcamp to come up, which a lot of people again think is an alternative, and it's not. It's just another part of the picture, except now on Bandcamp it's more personal, whereas on Spotify people can follow me and pre-save my music and listen to it. On Bandcamp I actually know who these people are, and then I can go and look at what else they're listening to in their record collection and who else has got those tracks in their record collection.
Yeah, interesting.
So
if you're and I'm asking this question really for myself, not for the audience, but I'm really hoping to record an album next year, and when I come out with an album, what am I doing first? How am I going to get people to even hear it? What's step one?
Well, I mean, I want to have a pre-step. Where are you going to record your album?
In your apartment. Didn't I tell you? No, I haven't figured that out yet.
I'm asking is, and it's maybe something to just touch on lightly right now, but you always make more money if you record outside America, number one. And that's because of a little thing called the Convention of Rome that America didn't sign 50 years ago and everybody else did. So we have this type of income called neighbouring rights, which historically American musicians can't collect. They don't get paid for it at radio and TV. But again, along came Spotify and Pandora and all these different digital ways of listening to music. So suddenly the American industry had to say, okay, we kind of have this royalty, we just don't have it at terrestrial, AM, FM, strictly digital. Which again is another argument for having your music on these platforms, is it actually generates a neighbouring right as well as a mechanical right as well as a sales right. But Once you have your album, the most important thing is the metadata. Like, you shouldn't even be leaving the recording studio without having it marked down, like who's written what, how much of it is your composition, what musicians are on each track.
Yeah.
Because that's the bedrock of all your metadata that you have to then serve up to your distributor or your publishing outlets or wherever. Everybody needs that information. So the thing is, if you get that, the first step is then to register everything properly before you even start distributing it. Let me ask you something. So are you a member of a PRO?
No.
Why not, sir?
Because I'm not sure what a PRO is.
It's a performing rights organization.
Sounds like I'm about to join one.
So like BMI or ASCAP.
Right,
These
okay.
are American companies.
Yeah, okay.
Do you write your own music?
I do, yes.
Okay. If this album that you're making is, say, all songs that Bronson Hoover has written, your first step is joining a PRO and being represented as a writer and a publisher. Because that's a performance revenue generated by the composition, not by the musician. Also, when you do your live shows and venues and things like that, if you register your live sets, people get paid. If you register the music Bronson Hoover played from his own catalogue and all the covers he played on his set on Saturday night, everybody's entitled to get paid for you performing that music.
That's a performance of their composition.
Because venues pay blanket licenses to these performing right organizations for you to be able to play that music. So that's number one, a big area where people leave money on the table is they don't understand that.
Do you teach classes in this? You should be teaching a class somewhere.
We're about to start with a few one-off classes at Manhattan School of Music, and we are actually trying to build our own school and get funding for it just now. But yeah, this is what I spend my life doing, is like when I have spare time, is like trying to coach artists through this stuff, because I can make it sound really complicated, but my MO is to make it really simple.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be complicated. It's just how people explain this stuff to you, you know?
Yeah.
But this is all the stuff you have to think about before you even start trying to put the record out there in the public domain. Because if you actually have all that stuff in check and registered properly, then you're set up to make the maximum amount of money that you can back from your product. That's why I sort of make that joke about you're all depressed. Like, I kind of like to frame this as a mental health issue, because Lord knows, like, if you're brought up fundamentally being told that what you do has no value, you're going to struggle to be positive about making money in this environment. And I think we just need maybe a little common sense and a little practical sort of thinking.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, what both of you guys do has tons of value to me. I can tell you that much right now.
Wow.
I appreciate you.
What's on the horizon? I know that the Harlem sessions in New York were a great thing for a while, and obviously that's all on a sabbatical. Are you on hiatus? You going to get back into Harlem sessions, and what else is coming down the road?
When it's safe and it makes sense, absolutely, you know. And we still.
How about a Baltimore sessions? Why don't you stay in Baltimore for a while? We'd like you here.
We're planning to stay here for a while.
Yes, you know,
we like you here.
Yeah, we're enjoying being here. We just haven't been out of the 5-block radius because COVID. I would like to be more integrated, and I know a lot of great musicians here.
Yeah.
But
you're coming up. You've got some great stuff coming up. He's recording a direct-to-vinyl record in October.
Cool. Yeah.
Which we've just put the promotion up online for, but that's a really special opportunity to actually go and cut a 7-inch record on a proper 1960s vinyl cutting lathe.
Yeah. Wow, so you're flying to Europe for that, I'm assuming, right?
Oh, no, I wish. No, because I did one in Europe. No, this is you have to look at the positives that are going on, even amongst all this darkness. There's a lot of small businesses that are trying to find ways to coexist with musicians and find ways for everybody to make money. And one of them is this amazing little studio in Brooklyn, Lee Staval Studios, who we're just like, look, you know, this is something we do once in a while, but let's do it regularly. Let's help the artists find a way of making money. If they make money, we make money.
Exactly.
And it's done like a crowdfunding thing. You know, customers pre-order the vinyl, and then when it comes to the day, which is October 16th, we're recording, we record unique versions for each pressing. So everybody gets a unique record.
We got a new trio record coming out.
Yep.
Is this the Focus Trio?
Oh.
No, this is
It's the trio from the Harlem Sessions.
the Harlem Sessions trio.
Okay.
We don't really have a name for the trio as much as, you know, that trio's been a working band now for nearly 5 years.
It's the Marc Cary trio, man. Yeah.
And we developed a real sound, being able to play every week together.
Yeah.
And we wanted to capture that sound.
Yeah.
You know.
Well, thank you guys so much. I think we've tackled every issue.
Oh, man. We can do a volume 2 when you're ready.
Yeah, man. I'd love to do a volume 2. Cool. Well, thanks, guys, so much. It's great to see you.
Bronson.
You can find out more about Marc at marccary.com. That's MarCary. To learn more about Tinku Bhattacharya, visit her site at intrinsicartists.com. I'm planning to take about a month off from this podcast, but I'll be back in January. If there's someone you'd like me to interview, please hit me up at burp.media or at bronsonhoover.com. I'd love to hear your feedback. And one quick note this election season. This experiment we call American democracy is at a crucial stage. When countries around the world adopt the democratic process, voter turnout is overwhelming. I have vivid memories of footage of people waiting in line in South Africa to cast their first vote. The dedication they had to make their voice heard was, and still is, inspiring. This past week I've seen similar footage right here in the U.S., as voters in Georgia have waited in line for over 10 hours to make their voice heard. Our democracy, our nation, only works when its citizens have fair and equal access to the election process. If you haven't already, please make a plan on how you're going to cast your vote. Please make your voice heard. Please, go vote.
The Baltimore Underground Radio Podcast is brought to you by BURP Media. That was a good one. We invite you to become a supporter at patreon.com/burpmedia. Supporters will have access to our online VIP room, which will include stories, photos, and interview extras, and bits from the cutting room floor. If you would like to become an official sponsor, contact us via our website at burp.media.